Welcome back to another episode of the Find Food Freedom podcast. And happy Mother's Day to all the mamas out there and everybody who is just a guardian of a child. You don't have to be a mama to celebrate Mother's Day. And Mother's Day is just a few days away. And I figured as a new mama myself, I am just shy of 1 year of being a mother to my daughter, Sienna. I wanted to put a Mother's Day episode out there, but from the lens of navigating a relationship with a diety mom. And that is not like the word diety, I think is a little unofficial, but I want to do this because as intuitive eating professionals, our team at Find Food Freedom so often is talking with clients and members and people about their relationship with their mom and how it impacts their relationship with food and body. And so I thought we could kind of make this episode a resource for everyone out there who is struggling how to navigate the relationship that they have with their mother when they're on their healing journey. If you're trying to heal your relationship with food, you're trying to heal your relationship with your body, and you feel like you just can't talk to your mom about it, or it's just a very triggering conversation, then this episode is for you. Now, I want to be very, very clear that as Mother's Day is upon us, I know Mother's Day can be a very difficult time for so many. And I know it's such like a hallmark holiday, but I just want to put a disclaimer as someone who myself, I struggled with many years of infertility where Mother's Days would pass and I wouldn't even want to get on social media because I didn't want to see the pictures of the young moms with their babies because that's all I wanted and I couldn't have it. Or for the mothers who have lost a child, or for adult children or children who have lost their mothers, or for people who are estranged from their mothers. There are or for the parents and guardians that aren't mothers or don't identify as a mom, but there's no like Hallmark holiday celebrating them. I just want to be very sensitive and make sure that we bring up the disclaimer that I know that Mother's Day fucking sucks sometimes. So I say happy Mother's Day, but with that comes a lot of disclaimers and just holding space for you and whatever is coming up for you this week, as all of the Mother's Day content is just pumped out into the interweb. So, motherhood is a sacrifice. It is beautiful. It is challenging. It is so many things. And I'm going to very soon do a 1 year postpartum update recap because I get so many questions of what my postpartum journey has been like as a new mom and somebody that works in the food and body image space. So I'm going to do a whole episode on that. So I'm not going to get into necessarily a lot of personal things about postpartum on this episode, but I want to start with motherhood is such a sacrifice. And I truly believe that every mother is doing the best they can with the resources that they have. And as human beings, whether you're a mom or not, we cannot do better until we know better. And once we know better, we can do better. And what I mean by that is so many clients that we support, we are unpacking their relationship with their mother in session because their mother is usually one of the number one contributors that shapes their relationship with food and body. And we know this through the research that the mother has the biggest impact or influence on a child's relationship with food. Now, please hear me when I say if you are a mother and your child has an eating disorder or struggles with their relationship with food, you are not the sole reason, or you might not be a reason at all. So I want to make sure this is very clear that there are many many influences to a child's relationship with food, but through research, we know that parents have the biggest influence on their child. With that being said, we cannot control environmental factors. We cannot control, the people that they come in contact with in school. We cannot control the media to an extent, right? We cannot control what children see all the time. And so please do not guilt and shame yourself that if your child struggles with an eating disorder, to not put that blame on yourself. Again, until we know better, we can't do better. And so when we support clients on their healing relationship with food and body image, we work with adults. And so we have these adult children, right? They're adults, but they're children to a mother. And we're unpacking, why is their relationship with food and body the way that it is? And so often when we get to this journey, we really start to see the world through such a different lens. And maybe we realize things about our parents or mentors or coaches or aunts or grandparents that were harmful to our relationship with food and body. And it can be a lot, and we don't know what to do with it. And so that's where I really want this episode to hone in on. Now, I did a really great episode collaborating with Jenna Warner, who is my co-host on the What the Actual Fork podcast, about almond moms. We did this back in April. So if you go to the What the Actual Fork podcast, it released on Friday, April 28th of 2023. We did a whole episode on almond moms and what is an almond mom. And just for a very quick recap, an almond mom is somebody who is very obsessive about restricting food, counting steps, clean eating, if you will. And I find that a lot of times when I am working with clients or my team is supporting clients that struggle with their relationship with food and body, there's a lot of almond moms. They grew up with an almond mom. They grew up with a mom that chronically dieted or really idolized a thin body. And this makes sense. We know that generational trauma, right? Things that get passed down from generation to generation, food and body image can absolutely fit into that pattern. And it makes sense, because if we think about our great grandmas or our mothers, if the mother figure in the family was emphasizing what we were eating or how we should eat or what we should look like or what we should wear, that gets passed on. And so clients at Find Food Freedom, they want to be the cycle breakers, right? They want to be the people that say, no more. My children are not going to diet. My children are not going to be obsessed with shrinking their body. My children aren't going to have morality tied to food. My children aren't going to obsess about food and body image. I want my children to live a full, happy life without diet culture. And so in order to do that, in order to be a cycle breaker, we have to work on our own relationship with food and body. And this is the shit that no one tells you, like, before you have a kid, that like, and for some of you, you may be like, no shit. Like, but for me, like, think about, like, there's so much reparenting of your inner child that you do as a parent, because you start to recognize these things as you bring a child into the world. And so I want to talk about, if you are an adult child, so you were the adult child to a parent who was a dieter, right? You had a mom, maybe your mom still diets. Maybe she's in her 60s, 70s, 80s, and is still making comments on what she's eating, what she looks like, what you look like, what you're eating, what your children, so her grandchildren, are eating. I want to hold space for you, and I want to help you navigate this relationship, because you can maintain a great relationship with this parent, this mother of yours, if you want, and set boundaries and be a cycle breaker and not bring diet culture into the lives of the children that you want to bring into the world. And please know that you might be the adult child and you're like, I'm not going to have children. This is just me navigating my relationship with my mother. And that's fine too. So there's like so many layers to this episode, but I really want to hone in on navigating a relationship with a, air quotes, diety mom, and some tips and tricks on how you can do that. So I want to start with some some kind of like disclaimers about mothers. Your mom is doing the best she can with the resources that she has. Now, there's a big difference between causing harm intentionally and causing harm unintentionally. There are, I really wholeheartedly believe that mothers want to do their best. They want the best for their children physically, mentally, and emotionally. And if they are causing harm unintentionally, again, they don't know. Now, that is different than a mother who knows they're causing harm and continues to do so. So I want to hold space for that because there's a very big difference. And of course, everybody's relationship with their mother, everybody's, trauma that they've been through is different. And so I want to speak to those of you who have a relationship with a mother who she might just be causing harm and not know it. Or maybe you've tried to bring up and have a conversation with her and she just writes it off or just forgets. And we're going to talk about that too. So what we need to remember is your mom has her own relationship with food and with body. Every human being in this world has a relationship with food, has a relationship with their body. And when a human being, even if it's our own mother, makes a comment about our own food choices or our own body, that is a direct reflection of their own relationship with food and body and has nothing to do with you. Now, that is so much easier said than done to believe that and to understand that when you are in the moment and you are triggered and it feels emotional. But I want to say it again. Your mother's comments about your food choices, about your body, have everything to do with her and nothing to do with you. And it's important to release yourself of that responsibility of defending your choices, defending your own body. Now, there is a difference between like verbal abuse and certain comments, but I want you to release yourself of that responsibility of feeling the need to reparent your mother on her relationship with food and body. Release yourself of that responsibility of fixing her relationship with food and her relationship with her body. And know that you can't do the healing for her. It is not your job or responsibility to reparent or to fix the relationship of your mother's relationship to food and body. And the sooner you do that, the sooner you can just take a deep breath and say, I can't control that, but I can work on my own relationship with food and with my body. And that's where we're going to talk about how you get to navigate these conversations. So if you want to continue to be physically present with your mother, have a relationship with her, but set boundaries that keep your own relationship with food and body safe, you can do that. So let's get into actual tips and tricks to help you navigate this tricky relationship. So I find that it is important to let yourself feel all the feelings. And I want you to know that whatever feelings and emotions come up with your relationship with your mother as you're healing your relationship with food and body, that it's okay. Whatever you're feeling, you don't need to feel guilt and shame for that. I also want you to know that although these feelings and emotions can be so strong, to know that they're not permanent. And I find patterns to come up with clients. This is not to say that every single person goes through this. And I want to make that very clear that everybody's relationship with their mother is nuanced, individualized. You have your own lived experiences. You have your own things going on. But I do want to share some patterns that I see because I feel like this can help normalize the process. So in the beginning, what we need to remember is that if dieting has given you and your mother something to bond over, like have you dieted together with your mother, whether that was childhood, adolescence, teen years, adult years, if you've dieted together, if she's taken you to Weight Watchers meetings, if you've connected over restricting or going on a diet before you go on a vacation, or there's been some sort of bonding over dieting, a mother, when you start to walk away from that, that can feel threatening to the mom because she's thinking, this is something that brought us closer together. This is something that we believed in together. This is something that we did together. And what we have to remember is that if your mother is not on an intuitive eating journey, she is not on a journey of healing her relationship with food and body, she does not now see the world through the lens that you're looking through. She can't see it because she hasn't done the work. And I really want you to know that how important this is, because I think so many of us come to the anti-diet space, to the intuitive eating space, and we think, wake up, everybody. Like, how don't you see what's going on here? Right. Like, I think that is like one of the most exciting things and freeing things of a food freedom journey is you're like, life is so much more beautiful and I have so much more purpose and I'm trusting myself again and I'm feeling better physically, mentally, emotionally. And you just want to like shake the people in your life and be like, how don't you recognize this? And so if you're close with your mother and you've bonded with her over dieting and shrinking your body and talking about how much you hate your bodies and the diets you want to do over the years, and now all of a sudden you're not doing that anymore, we have to provide a little bit of empathy for our mothers that how could they understand? They don't understand because all they understood was the bonding experience that you had and their beliefs about food and body have not changed. So I want to just recognize that because that can create a lot of anger in the beginning stages, a lot of resentment sometimes towards that mother of how can she not get this? How can she not see this? Her comments are so harmful. And please know that is valid. And can we have empathy or start to see that we used to say the same things as our mother if we went on that diet journey? And please know that it's hard to speak on this because everybody's relationship with food and body and your intuitive eating journey is different. But most commonly, the clients that we support have dieted for a really long time. And they have said the same things that their moms have said. They have thought the same things, but now they don't. And so they're in that state of like, how can't she see this? But we used to have those thoughts and beliefs too. And chances are we had them because our mother carries them, taught us those thoughts and beliefs about food. We were not born into this world thinking we didn't deserve food or we needed to restrict it. We were not born into this world hating our bodies and thinking that we needed to shrink them. So I find that as we walk our intuitive eating journey, as we get more experienced, as we truly remove morality associated to food and body size, as we find body acceptance and neutrality, it becomes easier to shift our frustration and our anger and the why can't she just see this to empathy, to knowing that your mother has an inner child. She has a little girl inside of her, just like you do, that doesn't believe that she's good enough, that she doesn't believe that her body is good enough, that she doesn't believe she deserves food. So when she's making comments to you about, are you going to eat that? Are you really going to eat that? Don't you want to go on this diet with me? Oh, honey, but when you were 10 pounds lighter, are those things okay to say? No. Do we need to set boundaries? Yes. But once you remove yourself from diet culture, no matter who it is, a stranger, a cashier, a neighbor, a girlfriend, your own mother, when they say these things, you start to realize, wow, they are so deeply entrenched in diet culture. And I hold so much space and empathy for them. I'm so glad I'm not there anymore. I'm so glad that's not me. And I can't do the healing for them. I can't want her to change so bad that she changes. Can you plant seeds in the life of a loved one? Absolutely. The more you show up and order the food that you want to eat and move your body joyfully and wear the clothes that you want to wear and have acceptance and neutrality and use verbiage that holds no morality around food, your mother will notice that. She will notice that. And you are planting seeds in the lives around you. But it's not your responsibility to heal other people's relationship with food and body. And the more that you release that responsibility, the more freedom you'll have. And so if we come back to the tips and tricks, if your mother is super diety still and just spewing diet culture talk all around you, there's a lot of different ways you can handle this. Every situation is going to be different. Every conversation, it depends your environment or other people around you. Do you feel comfortable? What is the dynamic like, right? But just know you can always change the subject. So she says the diety talk or a comment. Let's say she's like, you're really going to eat that? You just don't even acknowledge it, and you have something ready to go to change the subject. Maybe it's you don't even acknowledge the comment and you go right into, oh my God, Mom, did you watch the new episode of Ted Lasso this week? It was so good. Like blah, 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 blah. Right? We got something ready to go. Or did you watch Saturday Night Live this week? Did you watch this week? Like Lizzo hosted, or she was the musical guest, or, whatever it is, whatever you enjoy. Did you read this book? Did you, whatever. You change the subject. Every time you change the subject and don't engage in the diet talk, you are teaching the person. So let's say in this instance, your mother, you are teaching them what you talk about and what you don't talk about. You could not engage altogether. Again, depending on the environment, depending on the situation, you can pull out the fake phone call, right? You're in a room and she says something, you just, oh, I'm sorry, I got to take this. And you walk out of the room. You just get out. You just don't acknowledge and you get out. By the time you come back in the room, we hope the conversation has shifted and changed. Number 3, we can set a firm boundary. And there's different ways to do this. It could be a loose boundary of, hey, Mom, I don't find it helpful when you make comments about what I eat or my body. If we could please, make sure we don't do that. Or if you want to disclose more of, hey, I'm working on healing my relationship with food and body. I would really, find it helpful if you don't. Like, it really depends on you, your relationship with your mother, who's around, and how comfortable you feel. But a boundary can be set. And so often, I did a question box on this on Instagram. So many people say, but Sammy, I've set a boundary with my mother and she doesn't listen. And this is where, again, you get to determine, you're an adult now, you get to determine who shows up in your life. Boundaries are set to keep you safe, right? Not the people you set them with. That's not to keep them comfortable. It's to keep you safe. So let's say you've set a boundary. You've asked your mother multiple times. Then, and again, it's different for every person. Can we create a little bit more of a physical boundary? Not seeing our mom as frequently, as often when you are in the thick of healing your relationship with food and body image. That doesn't mean never see your mother again, but can we set a little bit more of a physical boundary of what's going to keep you safe? Or do we state that with our mother to say, hey, I've asked you a few times to not comment on this. It's getting to the point where it's really triggering me and it's hindering my progress and my relationship with food. So we're going to have to kind of, if you can't respect this boundary, I'm going to have to take a break from seeing you for a bit until you can meet that. One of the most important things to remember about boundaries, people will usually take them personally because it's directed at them. But this is a reminder that it doesn't matter that that's your mother. It doesn't matter if that's your neighbor, a friend. If anybody was not respecting that boundary, you would set that physical distance with them. So once they do respect the boundary, they're allowed over. They're allowed to come back over. They're allowed to come into your space. But anybody who doesn't respect the boundary, it's not about writing a list of people you need to stay away from. It's about setting the boundary. And if the people don't respect that boundary, then they have that boundary set towards them until they can respect it. And those who respect you and love you will get there. So I want you to know boundaries help you also teach people how to treat you. As a recovering people pleaser myself, boundaries can be very uncomfortable to set. And that's why if you're not ready to set a boundary with your mother or with others in your life, changing the subject, redirecting the conversation, not engaging in the conversation, taking yourself out of the room, those things can be really helpful things to start with, especially if you don't feel like you have the language or the verbiage yet, if you are newer in your relationship with food. I do want to also hit as we close today's episode that I mentioned the What the Actual Fork episode that Jenna and I did on almond moms. And we talked about how you can have an amazing mother and she can have a really negative relationship with food and body. And as you continue to heal your relationship with food and body, both of those things can be true. Sometimes in the beginning of the healing journey, we feel like I can't be around my mother. She's ruining my relationship with food and body. I'm never going to be around her again. But I want you to know that your mom's relationship with food and body might never change. She might never have awareness, but you can still get to a place of healing your own relationship with food and body and knowing that your mother's not going to get there. And as an adult, we get to grieve the pieces of our mother that they can't give us because they're human and you're human and we're all human. None of us are perfect. All of us are flawed and fucked up. And all of us, like, we're all just trying to do the best we can. So maybe your mother's not going to be the person that you turn to help you heal your relationship with food and body, but you are an adult and you get to choose who in my life is going to fill up that cup. I'm going to use myself as an example. I've had a few clients and even people that follow us on social media saying, I wish you were my mom. And I joke and I say, I am your mom. I am your mom in the sense of I will help you heal your relationship with food and body. Our team, we can fill up that piece, that void that maybe your mother couldn't give you. That doesn't mean we're replacing your mom. Your mother maybe was an amazing woman. She provided you with your physical needs, right? A roof over your head, food on a plate, took care of you when you were sick, did all of these amazing things, took you on vacations, showed up to every soccer game, every school play, whatever it is, right? But just because she can't see the harm in the healing the relationship with food and body doesn't mean you have to detach from that relationship. If you feel it's unsafe and you do decide to part ways, that is perfectly fine. You have to do what is right for you. But just know that as an adult, you get to choose who is going to support my relationship with food and body, who is going to be that nurturing, mothering presence to help me do that. And you can find others in your life. Maybe it's not even a professional. Maybe it's a friend who's going through a healing journey. Maybe it's a colleague. Maybe it's a neighbor. Or maybe it is, again, our team at Find Food Freedom or any intuitive eating professional that you work with that you decide, okay, this person, they're going to give me that nurturing, mothering care with my relationship with food and my body that I will never get from my mother. And that's okay. Both things can be true. We can grieve what we didn't get, and we can find that in other human beings in this life. Whew. So this episode is heavy. It's a lot. It's a lot to take in. But I want you to know that as a very new mom, I believe that mothers, we are all trying to do the best that we can. We're showing love the only ways that we know how. Um, and you get to decide what you want your relationship like to be like with your mother. You get to decide what you want your relationship to be like with your future kiddos. You get to decide what relationship with food and body image you get to determine. You do not have to adopt the thoughts and the beliefs of those who came before you. You get to rewrite that narrative for yourself. And if you choose to have children, you get to pass that along to them. So, wrapping up this episode, chances are if you clicked on it, you are a mother or serve as a motherly figure to someone in your life. Happy Mother's Day. Thank you for doing some of the hardest work I think that there is on human earth, mothering to a child, being that rock for another human being, being their everything. And give yourself grace because you are doing the absolute best that you can. Whew. Whew. Take a deep breath with me, in through the nose, out through the mouth. And if you found this helpful and you're like, I need more resources, you're speaking to me, I need help, I need support, please head over to findfoodfreedomresources.com. Again, that's findfoodfreedomresources.com. There you're going to find free trainings. You're going to find our monthly masterclass and membership. You're going to find an application to get more support if you want group coaching, one-on-one coaching. You want to work with our team. You want that professional support. We are here for you. So again, you can head over to findfoodfreedomresources.com. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please just take a few seconds, head over, give us a rate and review on Apple Podcasts, and let us know what you want to hear more of. If you loved this episode or any honest feedback, if you hated this episode, please leave us some feedback. And then in that review, let us know what you want to hear more of, because we want to keep giving you episodes. They're going to help you. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll talk to you next week.